Like that of the adventurers of any given campaign, board games are able to also level up in the form of expansions. This allows for more quests to be performed, more locations to explore, and in this situation, it incorporates what you find in any legislative house, that of corruption. And though corruption is typically a bad thing, at least that's what they say, it can be a good thing when possessing the right components to flip the script on the matter.
Greetings and welcome back to Checkpoint Gaming, Lords of Waterdeep. With this episode, we will be going over the Scoundrels of Skullport expansion. But before delving into today's episode, let's talk about today's sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Twin Suns Ranch, which is a guest ranch found in Southern California, where its team of set designers, actors, and galactic explorers come together to build a fully immersive experience where participants will be able to engage in a variety of endeavors based upon their given desires. This can include such things such as cosplaying, war reenactments, and laser tag. Depending upon what you want, Twin Suns Ranch can help you achieve that goal. Just reach out to them and see what you can come up with. You can find them at www.theweekendstrikesback.com/galaxies/index.html. The link will also be found in the description. With the Scoundrels of Skullport expansion, it introduces 2 new modules that can be added to the base game, that of Undermountain and that of Skullport, which represent additional locations that the players will be able to send their adventurers to, thus giving new ways of experiencing the game. But regardless of which module is being played, or even if both are being used, a new lord, quests, intrigue, and buildings have been added to the game and are related to the locations that are represented by these given modules. And if at least one module is being used, then up to 6 players are able to play at a time. When it comes to the components found in this expansion, they come with an icon printed upon its face which indicates which module it is associated with. With these components, they consist of 3 game boards, a rulebook, a storage tray, 1 player mat, 1 wooden score marker, 11 wooden agents with 6 for gray and 1 for each of the other colors, 25 corruption tokens, 6 Lord of Waterdeep cards, 50 intrigue cards, 60 quest cards, 24 building tiles, 9 control markers that are gray in color, 16 adventurer caravan tokens, and a 100 victory point token. With the Undermountain module, it is associated with the Beholder icon, and it is a vast dungeon that covers multiple levels beneath that of Mount Waterdeep that once served an insane wizard as a site for his magical experimentation. But now, it is a vast maze with few refuges for the weary adventurer, and sees the agents of a given lord venturing into these dangerous caverns with its associated quests posing greater demands of the players, but also offering greater rewards. This is due to rumors consisting of vast wealth found in Undermountain, which entices the adventurers to venture into its realm to see if they can obtain it. The risks and the rewards associated with this module are both greater for those who understand its associated quests. With Skullport, which is also known as the Port of Shadow, it is associated with the Flaming Skull icon, and it is found at the heart of Undermountain, deep below the streets of Waterdeep, and is a haven for nefarious criminals, underhanded dealings, and back-alley murders. When someone visits Skullport, they do so at their own peril. This is due to the fact that people will disappear when turning around any given corner. This module also introduces a new component to the game, that of corruption, which brings its own risks to the player. With corruption, it is represented by an icon found upon cards and buildings by skull-shaped tokens found upon the corruption track. For every corruption token that is found in the player's tavern at the end of the game, it is worth negative victory points, with the exact value being determined by how much corruption has been collected throughout the course of the game. So, the more corruption that a player has, the more negative victory points they will obtain. Corruption also doesn't count as an adventurer, doesn't count as gold, and can't be selected as a blank adventurer, or when a player is given the option to select an adventurer of their choice. And unlike that of adventurers and gold, corruption that a player possesses will penalize them at the end of the game. With that said, the buildings, quests, and intrigue cards that produce corruption will typically offer plentiful rewards. Because of this fact, players will need to strike a balance between their greed and the potential harm corruption will give at the end of the game. If playing with the Undermountain and/or Skullport modules, new rules are introduced to the game. Unless it is otherwise stated, play the game using the base rules, regardless of what module is being incorporated. These new rules begin with the introduction of new game boards. With 2 of these boards, they contain new action spaces on them and work just like that of the main game board, with 1 board being associated with each module. On their turn, the player can assign one of their agents to the action space in order to gain the benefits of that action. With the Skullport module, it also introduces another board known as the Corruption Track, which will be addressed later. With certain cards and buildings, they will instruct the players to place particular resources onto action spaces. This includes action spaces that already possess agents that have been assigned to them. But with that said, these resources can't be placed onto buildings that are found in the Builder's Hall. When an agent gets assigned to an action space that contains resources that have been placed onto them, their respective player can take said resources and place them into their tavern as the first part of said action. This will allow said player to use the collected resources during the same action. Regarding the Adventurer Caravan tokens, there are 16 with 4 of each kind, with each token representing 5 adventurers that are of the same type. With their use, they can be used with either module. If the caravan tokens ever run low, then the player can exchange them for excess adventures found in their given taverns. Since this expansion includes a new faction, that of the Grey Hands, it will increase the maximum number of players to that of 6. With the Grey Hands, their color is, you guessed it, gray, and is tasked with dealing with some threats that require extreme solutions, and consists of an elite force of highly powered adventurers who answer directly to that of the Lords of the City. When it comes to that of a 6-player game, it has to include at least 1 module from this expansion due to the fact that the base game won't be able to handle a 6th player. But with that said, less than 6 players are able to play using this expansion in the form of giving the players more agents, thus giving them additional actions with a minimum of 1 of these modules. With the number of agents that a player will get is dependent upon how many people are playing the game. If there are only 2 players, then each player will get 5 agents. If there are 3 players, then each player will get 4 agents. If there are 4 to 5 players, then each player will get 3 agents. And if there are 6 players, then each player will get 2 agents. This expansion also includes an additional agent for each faction to help ensure that each faction can be played in a 2-player game, with 1 of these modules being in place. Although these rules present it as if only 1 module can be used in a game, both modules are able to be used if the players choose to do so. But if it's decided to play with both modules, it will extend the length of the game. In addition to this, during the setup process, 25 intrigue cards, 30 quest cards, and 12 building tiles are to be randomly removed from the base game's components. Once that is done, shuffle together the base card types together with their corresponding types from both modules, as well as doing the same with the building tiles. From there, place all of the game boards that are being used upon the play area within easy reach of all of the players. From there, proceed normally when it comes to that of setup. When setting up the game for the Undermountain module, each card type will need to be shuffled, followed by doing the same for the building tiles. From there, place the Undermountain board near the main game board. Once that is done, the setup process will continue as normal. When setting up the game for the Skullport module, shuffle the cards and buildings as just described, followed by setting up the 2 Skullport boards near the main game board. With the corruption track setup, 3 corruption tokens will need to be placed onto every space that is labeled -2 through -9, with a single corruption token being placed onto the space that is labeled -1. Once that is done, the setup process will continue as normal. Whenever an effect requires a player obtain corruption, then they will take a corruption token that is found in the space that is closest to the -1 space upon the corruption track that still possesses corruption tokens. But if the player ever finds themselves required to take a corruption token and place it into their tavern and there aren't any tokens left upon the corruption track, said player is to immediately lose 10 victory points for every token they are unable to take. And when an effect requires a player to return corruption to the corruption track, then they are to take the required number of corruption tokens from their tavern and place them back onto the corruption track, starting with the space that is found furthest from the -1 space and doesn't already possess 3 corruption tokens. It is worth noting that no space found upon the corruption track is ever able to possess more than 3 corruption tokens upon it. When a card or building instructs a player to remove corruption tokens from the game, said player is not to place said tokens onto the corruption track. Instead, they're to place them back into the game box, thus removing them for the rest of the game. When it comes to that of the end game and the scoring of the victory points, any corruption tokens that the players have accumulated will have to be accounted for. The total amount of corruption that a player possesses in their tavern will reduce their total victory points, with each corruption token possessing a value that is equal to the printed value found in the empty space found upon the corruption track that is furthest from the -1 space. So the more corruption tokens a player possesses, the more victory points said player will lose. So with that said, that is what you need to know about the Scoundrels of Skullport expansion. With that taken care of, we can start talking about the lords found in the game. If you liked this episode, feel free to give it a like, and if you want to stay up to date on any future episodes we upload, go ahead and subscribe. You can also support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/checkpointgaming. See you in the next episode, and happy gaming.